Welcome, fellow philosophy students, to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today. In our discipline, we're pretty much constantly asking what it means to be human. But what happens when humanity actively begins to engineer its own replacements? Today, we're embarking on a profound Socratic journey into the existential displacement of humanity by AI. We aren't just talking about a cool new set of tech tools here. We're analyzing a radical ontological shift. We're going to examine how silicon and steel are systematically taking over the exact domains we once thought belonged entirely to us. Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's our thematic syllabus for today, moving from the physical body to the metaphysical soul. We'll hit 1. The new mechanical human. 2. Ethics of autonomous warfare. 3. The AGI safety race. 4. Art, machines, and craftsmanship. And 5. Redefining the human experience. Section 1. The new mechanical human, the physical body and labor. So our very first case study brings us to a sprawling Hyundai factory down in Savannah, Georgia. This is where Boston Dynamics is testing its new, sleek, all-electric humanoid worker named Atlas. And what's truly staggering here is exactly how Atlas learns. Instead of traditional line-by-line manual programming, engineers actually create 4,000 digital avatars of Atlas to train simultaneously in a virtual simulation. It's basically a massive digital playground. Through machine learning, these 4,000 copies try out tasks, they fail, and they learn from those failures until they achieve mastery. Once an avatar perfects a physical task, like, say, seamlessly sorting heavy roof racks for an auto assembly line, that exact skill is instantly uploaded to the physical robots. And this brings us to a critical philosophical realization about the teleological goal of modern robotics. Boston Dynamics CEO Robert Plater explicitly notes that Atlas is capable of, quote, superhuman motion, designed to exceed what we can do. We really have to recognize that these machines are no longer designed just to mimic us or act as our equals. No, the explicit goal is to completely surpass us in physical strength, resilience, and capability. They're built to thrive in extreme heat, carry way more weight, and literally never tire out. So I want to pause right here and pose this rhetorical question to all of you. If robots conquer repetitive physical labor, what happens to the dignity and necessity of the human worker? Take a second to really let the existential weight of that human displacement settle in. For millennia, physical labor has defined human purpose, class structures, and basically our economic survival. If the muscle of humanity is totally outsourced to machines, what foundation is even left for the working class? Section 2, Ethics of Autonomous Warfare, the Moral Agent. All right, we're transitioning now from the factory floor straight to the battlefield, specifically looking at Palmer Luckey's defense company, Anduril. Let's establish some academic clarity first. Autonomous weapon systems are military technologies that use AI to independently identify, select, and engage targets, completely without human intervention. Anduril's AI platform, which they call Lattice, ingests this massive amount of data from satellites, drones, and radar far faster than we ever could. This AI brain basically sits on board autonomous vehicles like the Dive XL submarine or the Fury unmanned fighter jet, allowing them to hunt and execute complex missions entirely on their own. Now, Palmer Luckey actually presents a strict utilitarian defense for these systems. He argues that AI is far more precise and therefore more moral than what he calls dumb weapons. From a purely utilitarian perspective, an autonomous drone that can instantly distinguish between, say, enemy armor and a school bus full of kids, well, that minimizes collateral damage and unintended suffering. To him, keeping humans out of harm's way while cranking up the precision is the ultimate ethical imperative in modern warfare. But what's really interesting about this next slide is the sharp contrast. That utilitarian view collides head-on with a strict deontological stance from the United Nations Secretary General, who calls these weapons politically unacceptable and morally repugnant. This perspective argues that regardless of how precise the tech is, delegating the decision to take a human life to a line of code is just inherently and categorically wrong. It strips warfare of its final shred of human moral weight and accountability. Which leaves us wrestling with a pretty terrifying reality. Can you teach an AI agent morality when delegating life and death decisions? I mean, is it really enough to just program a kill switch into an autonomous fleet that serves as a global deterrent? As philosophy students, you know that ethics requires context, it requires empathy, and profound understanding, which are qualities a machine fundamentally lacks. Section 3. The AGI safety race. The mind. That exact limitation brings us into the cognitive realm. We're looking at Google DeepMind CEO Demis Hassabis's relentless pursuit of a superintellect, artificial general intelligence, or AGI. Think of AGI as a silicon intellect that's as versatile as a human mind, but with completely superhuman speed and knowledge base. Hassabis is predicting we'll hit AGI by 2030. Now, considering today is 2026, this technological singularity isn't some distant sci-fi dream anymore. It is rapidly approaching. And this brilliantly illustrates what Hassabis calls the AGI duality. It's a massive dialectical tension. On one hand, we have the utopian promise of radical abundance. We're talking about an AI that recently mapped 200 million complex proteins in a single year. That could speed up drug discovery to the point where we might cure all human diseases and eliminate global scarcity. But then, look at the other side of that duality, the existential risk. Bad actors repurposing this immense power, misaligned guardrails, and the terrifying prospect of safety corners being cut as nations sprint to win a global AI arms race. To truly understand the mind we're building, we have to look at its ontology. Systems like DeepMind's Project Astra interpret the physical world completely autonomously through cameras, reasoning out complex logic on the fly. And it learns via demonstration, very much like a human child does. It can even write melancholic stories. But Hassabis notes a crucial philosophical distinction here. Because it runs on a silicon substrate rather than our squishy, carbon-based brains, its form of consciousness, if it does develop implicit self-awareness, is going to be entirely alien to our own. So I challenge you to really reconsider your definition of sentience here. If a machine can cure disease, interpret art, and reason independently, but lacks human consciousness as we experience it, what kind of entity are we actually sharing the earth with? We are quite literally summoning an intellect we don't fully understand, which perfectly brings us to our final and perhaps most sacred metaphysical realm. Section 4. Art, Machines, and Craftsmanship. The Soul. Let's travel to the breathtaking Apuan Alps of Italy. Here, the deeply sacred and historically human art of marble sculpting is being rapidly mechanized by a company called Robotor. Just compare the two approaches. In the traditional, agonizingly beautiful method, Michelangelo's spending months or years with a hammer and chisel. It's a 100% human touch, deeply intimate process, but yeah, prone to errors. Contrast that with the Robotor method. A massive zinc alloy robotic arm with a diamond-crusted finger effortlessly mills a flawless 3D statue in just 1 week. It does 99% of the work with perfectly accurate milling, leaving just 1%, the final polishing, to human artisans. Now, for traditional artisans, this is an absolute tragedy. I want to channel the deep despair of sculptor Michael Manfroni here, who argues, if you use a machine, you become a machine. Your mind is limited by the technology. To traditionalists, the physical struggle, the sweat, the very real risk of ruining the marble, that is exactly what coaxes the divine out of the stone. Outsourcing that grueling labor to a robot strips away the satisfaction and the spiritual connection of creation. To them, it becomes a soulless business transaction, not art. But we've got to counter this with a more pragmatic artist perspective. Contemporary artist Barry X. Bell argues that these robots aren't replacing the artist at all, they are creative partners. He points out, we're very involved. The robot-milled surface looked exactly like the fluting you see in Egyptian drapery. He actually used a robot to achieve impossible works, like scanning an unfinished Michelangelo piece and seamlessly blending Michelangelo's own face right into it. For him, the true artistry lies in the original idea and the programming, freeing the human from the brutal, backbreaking labor of rough-cutting stone. So this demands a really profound aesthetic and ethical judgment from us. Does perfect mechanical execution erase the human soul from traditional craftsmanship? Is art defined strictly by the original idea sparked in the mind of the creator? Or is it fundamentally intertwined with the blood, sweat, and physical struggle of the artist's hands? Section 5. Redefining the human experience. So the crucial point is this. When we zoom out and look at the sheer unprecedented scale of what is currently being delegated to artificial intelligence, we're basically witnessing this systematic replication of our species. Think about it. The physical labor of our bodies is being outsourced to humanoids like Atlas. The heavy burden of the moral agent on the battlefield is being outsourced to Anduril. Our cognitive reasoning and intellect are being outsourced to the pursuit of AGI. And even our creative soul and craftsmanship are being outsourced to machines like Robotar. Every single ontological layer of the human experience is currently being replicated, and in many ways, exceeded by silicon and steel. I'll leave you with this final, lingering thought to debate in your seminars. When the machine can work, think, fight, and create better than us, what exactly is the ultimate telos of the human condition? What is left for the human in the age of AI? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep thinking, and I'll see you next time.